Hi, this is Christiana Gaudet with another video review of a tarot deck. Bang the gongs, sound the trumpets, and sing hallelujah. US Games has re-released one of my very favorite tarot decks of all time, the Ancestral Path Tarot. Here's my old Ancestral Path Tarot. This was published originally in 1995, and when it went out of print, I literally cried. So no one is happier than me to tell you that the new Ancestral Tarot, here's what the box looks like. So here's the old one. Here's the new one. You can see they're the same size. The box is different. On the back of the old one, we see the Seven of Cups. On the back of the new one, the King of Sacred Circles. Here on the old one, it says unique 78-card tarot deck uniting diverse multicultural beliefs and mythology. Here on the new one, Ancestral Path Tarot is a unique multicultural deck that highlights human experiences by examining the traditions and spiritual beliefs of 4 different ancient cultures. So the wording's a little different. The deck is, I would say, exactly the same. The only difference I noticed was in the coloring of the back, and I will show you what I mean. Here's the old one, and you'll see that the back is not reversible. Here's the new one, and you can see the color is slightly muted. That's the only difference I found. Okay, so if you have an Ancestral Path Tarot gathering dust on the shelf, it's time to dust it off and bring it back into your life. If you have an old one that has been damaged, it's time to get a new one. And if you don't own Ancestral Path Tarot, it's time to get it right now, a brand new deck. When I got my original one, I also got this book by Tracy Hoover. I am not sure that this book is now reissued. Maybe if we put some pressure on US Games, they will. Maybe it isn't. I don't know about it. You can check with them. But I did find this book by Tracy Hoover to be very helpful. The Little White Book is only 30 pages. It does pack a lot of information into the deck. This is a very complex deck, though, which is why I like the book. So, let me tell you about the deck. First, we're going to talk about the major arcana. When I look at this deck, I see Waite influences, I see Crowley influences, I see influences from early esoteric tradition. I also see feminist influences. And certainly, as I've already told you, this is a multicultural deck, but it's not in your face politically correct. Now, the 4 suits are very specifically organized, and we'll talk about the minor arcana in a moment. The major arcana may seem a little disjointed because it doesn't seem to have a central theme. Let me show you first the Fool. This is a modern Fool, and it actually is an image of Tracy Hoover, who wrote the book. And what do we see? It's a tarot reader, and what is she doing? She is holding up the Fool card from this deck. So there's this sort of what happens when a mirror faces a mirror kind of thing going on. If you look at the carvings in the chair, you see some traditional Fool images in the chair and in the dolls hanging from the chair. So what an interesting Fool. And right away, when we think about Ancestral Path, this is a very rich deck, not only in its beautiful artwork, but in its messages for us. And one of the things, especially looking at this deck in its reissue, we think a lot about our path as tarot readers and the actual cultural path of tarot. And so to see this as the Fool has even more meaning to me now than it did when I got my first Ancestral Path Tarot deck so many years ago. The only name that has been changed is the Hanged Man, who is now the Hanged One. And look at what we have. A fetus in birth position waiting to be born for the Hanged One. Profound. A comment on the human journey and the human path. Stunning, isn't it? What else do we see in the major arcana? We do see cultural influences. You can see that the tower is Egyptian. So is the sun. The sun is Egyptian. The moon is Native American. Judgment is a very interesting card. And this is one that I think readers who don't have access to the original book will suffer a little, because what we learn in the original book is the Judgment card comes from a dream that the artist, Julie Cuccia-Watts, had. And this is actually Julie, the artist, floating out of her bed and putting her arm into another level of existence, another level of reality. So here we have an image from the artist's dream. Now, when we look at the minor arcana, 4 suits associated with the 4 elements, but each suit is also associated with a particular cultural story, a particular cultural myth, if you will. Pentacles in this deck are called sacred circles, and they are associated with a Native American story. The 4 characters in the court, and the court is kings, queens, princes, and princesses. These are deities or characters in the story. When we look at the story told by each suit in the minor arcana, we're doing it top down, starting with the 10, telling the story all the way down to the 2, and then seeing the ace as the essence of that element and of that story. This is actually a traditional way to look at tarot, but here is the 10 of sacred circles, starting the Native American story. Now, the suit of cups is British, telling the Arthurian legend. So here we have King Arthur as the King of Cups, Guinevere as the Queen of Cups, Lancelot as the Prince, and Morgan as the Princess. We start with the 10 of Cups in Camelot. The suit of swords tells a story of feudal Japan. And so we see Japanese deities from Shinto as the court characters. And we begin our story with the 10 of swords. The final suit is the suit of staves, which tells the story of ancient Egypt during the time of Ramses II. And some of the images I really like here, the 8 of staves, we have the sacred ibis. And so we have very Egyptian images here. So one question might be, with these 4 distinctly different suits, how do the cards work together? And the answer is very well. What you have when you do a reading with it is a very multicultural deck. A deck where not everyone is white. And that's a good thing. The thing about Ancestral Path Tarot is you can study it as deeply as you want or not. It is a readable deck. It works on so many levels. It is what I like to call an archetypal assignment deck, where a tarot artist finds a theme and works with the tarot archetypes, assigning characters from the theme to those archetypes. Now, some of our best archetypal tarot artists are Chris Walder of Goddess Tarot, Lisa Hunt, Animals Divine Tarot, and many others. But the thing to remember is Ancestral Path Tarot came out in 1995 originally. Chris Walder's acclaimed Goddess Tarot didn't come out until 98. So really, Julie Cuccia-Watts is one of the first artists to really work with the archetypes in this way. So use Ancestral Path Tarot to study these archetypes. Use Ancestral Path Tarot to give great readings. Use Ancestral Path Tarot to help you think about the larger picture. We will be someone's ancestors one day. We are creating our own cultural fabric right here, right now, with the people around us. And if we look at this from the perspective of tarot, Ancestral Path even talks about its own culture, especially as we revisit it now in its brand new box, reissued, republished. We understand that Ancestral Path Tarot is a tarot ancestor with all the wisdom and all the knowledge of any other ancestor. I am so grateful to US Games for bringing this deck back to us.